All right, so let me start this off by saying that Dragon Quest 1, Dragon Warrior 1 was my first JRPG. A lot of people already know this, but it was introduced to me by my brother when I was around 5 or 6 years old on the original Nintendo, and I played it a lot when I was a kid. I would later go on to play Dragon Warrior 2 and the sequels, but Dragon Quest and Dragon Warrior have been my favorite video game series of my entire life. Like, I was exposed to Akira Toriyama's work on Dragon Quest years, in fact, almost a full decade before I even knew what Dragon Ball was. Like, literally, it took forever. Like, I think 6 years later is when I first laid eyes on Dragon Ball, 6 or 7 years later. I don't exactly remember the date, but the point is that I have had lots of love for Dragon Quest. And I tell people all the time that if you're going to get into the series, start with the Erdrick trilogy. Even though there's other ways to start with it. But I always have to preface it by saying that with Dragon Quest 1, even though it's legendary, even though it's a very important game in the history of not just RPGs, but gaming as a whole, the reality is that Dragon Quest slash Dragon Warrior 1 is very, very primitive compared to even other RPGs in the Nintendo era. It's not a party, it's one character, it's one on one. You only can get to level 30 max. You only have about 8 or so spells. You have to push a stairs command to go up and down the stairs. Like the game was and is primitive, even with its remakes, even with the its ports on the Super Nintendo and on the Game Boy Color, and even the mobile and Switch ports. Yes, there's a ton of quality of life improvements, and yes, it is less grindy, but it's still very, very primitive and very archaic compared to even Dragon Quest 3, which I think is a bit more palatable. But the reason as to why I want to get people into 1 and 2 is because I want to get them familiar with the world first before they jump into 3. Now, however, with Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD-2D Remake, the idea of Dragon Quest 1 being archaic is, in a way, out the window. And same thing with Dragon Quest 2. This is not just a port. This is not just a game that improves upon the previous one. Dragon Quest 3 did that, but in many ways, when you play Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D Remake, you're getting a lot of the same content you got, not just in the Super Famicom version, but also in the Game Boy Color version, with some tweaks and more story content, more stuff about the main character's father, Ortega, but not anything that's too I guess, revolutionary. Like, you're not getting any big new revelations except for maybe the post-credit scene, which was meant to tie into this version of 1 and 2. But with Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake, they completely went in and overhauled the first two games. I'm not going to say it's as drastic of a change as, like, say, the Final Fantasy VII remakes, which went from a turn-based JRPG to more of an action combat JRPG. That's not what this is. This is still traditional turn-based. But man, did they overhaul Dragon Quest 1 and 2. There is a new party member in Dragon Quest 2. There's new locations in both games. And I mean new locations like new towns, new civilizations, things that tie into 3 that weren't in the original 1 and 2. In many ways, a new story. Dragon Quest 1, the skeleton of Dragon Quest 1. If you are somebody who loves and appreciates Dragon Warrior and Dragon Quest 1 for what it was despite it being archaic like me, you know that in Dragon Quest 1 you have to save the princess, get the rainbow drop, and go defeat the Dragon Lord. Slay the dragon, save the princess. Very, very, classic fairy tale, nothing too complex. 2 has a bit more of a bit more meat to the story. But Dragon Quest 1, the Dragon Quest 1 side of this release, which, by the way, this is out now on Switch 2, Switch 1, PS5, Steam, and Xbox. I think it is on Xbox also. I'm playing the Steam version because I'm streaming it on Twitch and doing a playthrough. But Dragon Quest 1 is maybe now, Yuji Horii and the team over at Square Enix took Dragon Quest 1 and brought it into the modern world. No, it doesn't look like Final Fantasy VII Remake. No, it's not like a fully 3D environment. It's still HD-2D, but there are cutscenes now. There's new characters. There's characters that you get to interact with. There's new tie-ins to Dragon Quest 3. There's new lore. There's even a ton more weapons. You know that in the original Dragon Warrior, you get 7 weapons, like 7 attack weapons, 3 shields, and I think like 6 or 7 different armors. Not in this game. This game feels like a modern Dragon Quest or a modern RPG. There's loot to be found everywhere. There's locations that were not in the original game, side quests that are not in the original game, boss battles that are not in the original game. There's characters that are sort of teasing and sort of like, tied into one that were part of 2. And there's also a lot of sort of new backstory. So I hate having to talk about this, but they released 3 before 1 and 2, and the big thing about 3 is that 3 was revealed to be a prequel, and that's something that you're not supposed to know until you play the game. It's a big shocker in the last sort of section of the game when you discover that 3 is actually a prequel. And it's one of the greatest twist endings to any game. Like that's one of the only times that a video game actually left me speechless. Like but you don't appreciate it if you don't play Dragon Quest 1. Well, with the fact that 3 came out before 1 and 2, when you play these games, it sort of has a bit of an opposite effect. Meaning, if you play through 3 first, there's information, there's story content here that expects you to sort of know what happened in 3. You understand what I'm saying? There's tie-ins to events that happen in 3 that you're finding out about that tie into 3, so your knowledge of 3 helps. Now, I think Yuji Horii set it up to where you can play it 1, 2, 3 or 3, 1, 2, and it doesn't matter, because before that would be difficult because the combat system and the class system in 3 is so much more advanced than 1 and 2. Well, what they did with 1 and 2 is they added new abilities, new spells. They added new ways of getting spells and abilities. They added new types of moves. They tweaked the combat, and more importantly, Dragon Quest 1, in the original Dragon Quest 1, it's one-on-one battles. When you're walking around the overworld, you get into a monster fight, it's one-on-one. In the HD-2D remake, there's multiple monsters now, and so you have to be really strategic and careful. You have to really, really take your time with this, because just because Dragon Quest 1 was brought into the modern age, and 2, and the games are less grindy, does not mean that these games are a cakewalk. I got killed multiple times in Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD-2D remake. Multiple times, dude. I was killed because the boss battles that they add into the game, and even the old ones like the Armored Knight battle or the Green Giant battle or the Green Dragon battle, the one that has the princess captive, they have enhanced these boss battles. They are more difficult. The bosses take multiple turns. Like, they really, really tweak the difficulty to where this is no cakewalk. This is no Pokemon game. This is the definitive Dragon Quest 1 and 2. This is the definitive, canon. This is the canon now. And I'm happy about it because everything feels so much more tied together. You find out about certain characters in 2 and 3 that don't even get mentioned in 1. They are now mentioned in 1. The world itself, the world that you're in, Alfgard, the connective tissue between 1 and 2 and 3, and 1 and 3 gets really sewn together well here. There are surprises everywhere, like all throughout the game. It really does feel like they took Dragon Quest and brought it into the present time. And I must tell you, I no longer have to tell people, oh, if you play Dragon Quest 1, it's archaic. I don't have to tell people that anymore because it's not. Like, yes, you're still just one guy, but they really have made it much easier to get into for modern gamers. Same thing goes for Dragon Quest 2. 2 I always thought was a bit easier, even though like to get into, I mean, but the original version of 2 is absolutely punishing. The NES version, at least some of the reboots and the remakes on Super Nintendo and on the Switch and the mobile versions are easier to kind of get through. They still added a lot of content. Let me tell you, man, these, wow. I mean, the graphics are great. The voice acting, I really like the voice acting, especially the voice of the villains. It's amazing. They're really, really well cast. The game has it in English and Japanese. You have 3 different difficulties like with Dragon Quest 3, except now when you pick the easiest difficulty, it doesn't just make you immortal like Dragon Quest 3 did. Now with this game, you can choose to take damage or not. I don't know why you'd want to play a game where you don't take damage. That seems like, even like as a little kid, I wouldn't want to do that. That would not make sense to me, that you'd play a game where you literally can't die. What's the fun in that? How is that fun in any way? You know what I mean? It's just, ugh, no thank you. So, I played it in Dragon Quest mode, which is the normal difficulty, which is still pretty hard. Like I said, I got killed a few times. Draconian mode, that's the one where it's super hard. I haven't tried that yet, but I probably will in the future. But I'm still making my way through these games, though I have not beaten the game yet. But first impressions, I've been playing it for under a week now, about 5-6 days, and 5 days. And yeah, this trilogy, the HD-2D trilogy, the Erdrick trilogy coming into the forefront now, along with Dragon Quest 11, how that ties in, because it is tied into the original trilogy. I am very happy that people can experience this story and actually experience more of a story and not need stuff filled in with, because with the original games you had to like read the manual and like maybe read some Japanese manga and look into interviews to kind of get more context for certain character backgrounds and things like that. Remember, this is old game, but the first of its kind, inspired the entire JRPG boom. Dragon Quest did. Now it has come into the 21st century, and I couldn't be happier. You need to play this game, and you need to play 3 if you haven't. If you like JRPGs, if you want to know what the big deal is, how can Danny like Dragon Quest more than Dragon Ball? Why? You have your opportunity now. And when I first saw this game was $60, I was like, hold on. It's 2 games, so you're getting 2 for the price of 1. But it's like, wait a minute. These are old games. I now understand why, because the first Dragon Quest game, if you know exactly what to do, you can beat it in literally 6 to 7 hours, usually maybe around 10. If you grind without like doing the speed up thing with ROMs. I've already put like 20 or so hours into just one Dragon Quest 1 side of 1 and 2, because both games are included. And it's not like you get one game and you download the other. No, the cart or the disc or whatever has everything in it. It's all in there. I'm already 20 hours into Dragon Quest 1, and I got to the final boss. 20 hours. So they added a ton. And that's 20 hours of in-game time. That doesn't include all the times I got killed because I didn't think things through. You have to strategize. You have to get the right equipment. You have to do the right moves at the right time. Like, it really does require paying attention. You can't just hit a button and heal. The original Dragon Quest, if you just attack, heal, and a couple times you use sleep, you can get through the whole game. Like, it really is like that simple if you know what to do. Here, though, they threw twists for... Buddy, I've beaten Dragon Warrior 1 1,000 times. And 2. Well, I beat 1 more than 2, but because I had it longer. But, man, let me tell you... They throw enough curveballs where you think you're supposed to go one way, and then you realize, oh no, like it's actually you're going another way. And, oh no, you're not supposed to go there yet. Like, there's a cave that I usually do early in Dragon Quest 1 when I played it originally that you don't do till almost the end. Like, they really did flip it. And I think for the better. Those are my initial thoughts on Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake. I may come back and do a video once I finish all this and talk about it. I don't know yet. We'll see. But get this game. Talk to you soon.